From Einmal1 Productions, this is Singletrack, episode 315, and I'm your host, Matthias Eichler. Thanks for being here. Singletrack is brought to you by Electric Cable Car, your daily source of news and updates on mountain culture and the business and sport that is trail and ultra running. This special episode is part of our month-long UTMB coverage. Visit electriccablecar.com to stay up to date and join me in getting excited about trail running's most exciting time of the year. All right, people, we made it. Finally, I got Scott Michie on Singletrack. It's only taken 315 episodes, and all it took was Scott heading back to Chamonix for another dance around that big white mountain. Over the last few years, Scott and I have trained together, run many trails, climbed many mountains, and in a couple weeks, we'll both be in Chamonix together. He'll run UTMB for the second time, while I, for the first time, put on a bib for OCC. In this episode, we'll chat about Scott's experience at UTMB a couple years ago and how he's approaching training and preparation a little bit differently. Oh, and we're both very, very excited about it all. Let's go. Scott Michie is on Singletrack and drinking an energy drink as we speak. So I expect him to be as pumped up as I am, because it's like 340 million episodes later, and finally I got Scott on the show.
Yes, you are so lucky. I'm here. I'm ready.
Yes, you hear that? So it took something very special to make it happen. You are running UTMB again in like just over 2 weeks, and it's the second time for you to run the big dance around Mont Blanc. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about it. I didn't realize this was going to happen until July 15th.
It was late, but here we are.
Oh, I'm elated about it. There's no doubt about it. This is the best race in the world, in my opinion. This is like the ultimate trail running event. So 100% I'm ecstatic to be there, but it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of the body. So I'm it's going to be a fun loop. I'm excited.
Do you, I mean, as the sort of, late starting up training and sort of aside, you've run it before. Well, maybe we need to do a small recap. You got in 2 years ago. Wasn't it COVID delayed too or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So you got in and then they canceled it, and then, everything got pushed out a year. You took the family over. It was glorious, but it was not a great race for you, right? It was super, super tough.
Yes, 100%. It was hard. It was hard to make it.
You did finish though. So, I mean, there are hard races where you end up DNFing, but you did finish. Do you recap just a little bit? What was hard?
Yeah, so it was 2021 and great weather. I felt good all the way through St. Gervais, and then I got low going up around the pyramids, and it was just, lows where you're throwing up, dry heaving, couldn't eat, just real low. And then I got to Courmayeur, and oh man, took a long nap, just tired and done. And but I just kept rolling, kept going with it, eating, and got through it. But it was really just, I couldn't eat in such lows for so many hours.
Didn't a volunteer come and wake you up and saying, "What, are you going to finish this thing, or are you just going to sleep here?"
Well, you know how you have to give them your phone number, and you're always like, okay, they don't care about us. I'm like one of 2,500 people. Well, they called me while I was there, and I was laying down in the back in Courmayeur, and they're like, are you okay?
Your tracker hasn't updated.
Exactly.
Come on, get moving.
I was like, I'm going. Don't worry. I'll get up. Good little poke to go.
Nice. Did you, like, looking back at it, did you sort of like troubleshoot and figure out what got you into this place?
Yeah, I really think I went a little bit fast all the way up that first climb and wasn't eating enough.
Okay.
I mean, it's funny racing in Europe because there's just different foods. Like that first aid station I went through, I grabbed something that I thought was a big piece of melon. It was a big piece of cheese. And I was just like, oh, what did I just take a bite out of? Oh, I didn't realize. I thought it was honeydew, but no. So just difference and just getting caught up in all the excitement. So I think I just need to be a little bit more aware going into it, which I've done it once, so now I'm feeling good about that.
So you definitely, so it was tough, but ultimately you finished it. So in a sense, are you going in with more trepidation because you know how tough it's going to be, or do you get in feeling better prepared?
Um, I guess better prepared because I know it's not going to be any worse than that.
Well, I mean, you say that, but it could get worse,
Well,
right?
I mean, yes, it could. There's always a chance of that, but
Okay,
there were some pretty good lows there, and I went through it all. I only have positive thoughts about the race in the end. It's
okay.
absolutely gorgeous, and the people are just so amazing. So I just to be a part of it again and to see it all gets me amped up, and I know the course in my head. So I think that helps me in that perspective, where I know what I'm going to feel like, where I'm going to be in certain sections, and that I think makes it easier and more comfortable for me.
Yeah, yeah. It is. I think we talked about this on one of the last runs a couple days ago. Is this potentially your first race that you are repeating, right? First big
Yes.
race.
No, you're right. We mentioned it on a run, and I've been thinking about it since. I was like, this is the only time I've ever done the same race twice. It is, yeah.
Because I remember um because I've been often thinking about this because there is sort of, especially if you've done well at a race, that you think, well, I got to improve, but improving is really hard under normal circumstances, right? I mean, if you completely shit the
Yeah.
bed, then perhaps improving is a little bit easier because you can just make sure that doesn't happen, right? But in general, I find improving really hard. It's not easy to just improve by a couple hours, right? It takes a lot.
Yeah.
And so there is actually sort of some weird, like self-competitive, like trepidation in my head of like, I never want to redo a race
Mm.
because what happens if I don't do as well, right? Because you might solve that one problem, but encounter another one and it might be just as bad. And so you can get in your head really quick, but this is UTMB. This is the one race that you really want to redo, re-experience over and over again. And it's totally worth it getting yourself into that headspace.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, I think there's so many amazing races all over the world, but to me, like this is the one that I would do every year if I could. Man, it's yeah, I agree.
So you're saying that. Give me a couple reasons of why you love that. Obviously, you haven't raced every single race, so you're not trying to compare
No.
this on that level. But what makes it so special for you? I mean, for me, my story, and I haven't even raced there yet, so I don't even know if it translates for me in the way I anticipated to translate. But my story is always like I grew up in the Alps. I, for me, the pinnacle of vacation experience and what I want to see is that kind of environment, these Alps refugios, these glaciers in the distance, these little towns. That's for me coming home, right? But for you, that's not your you don't have the same experience. So for what makes it for you so special?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So years ago, it's like 2016 or 17. I was with my family and we're all talking about experiences. And while we were all at dinner, I realized my entire family, this is six other people, all had gone to France and done the UTMB trail, but they did it where they did the hikes and they went through each refuge, each like over 7 or 8 days. And they all talked about it and how amazing it was. I'm like, wait, I'm the only one here at the table that hasn't done this? Me? And so that kind of got me going at it because I have a history of backpacking and being in the mountains. I mean, certainly a lot of surfing as well, but I've done a lot of backpacking with my brother in particular. And so after that night, I just started looking up and found this race and learned more about UTMB and kind of built it all up with all these conversations with my family. And I think that kind of laid a groundwork for me to be like, oh, wow, this is a pretty amazing thing if I can ever be a part of it. And then when I finally got the opportunity to get into the race after sacrificing a lot to qualify, I got there and it was, that valley is just something special. Even though that was during COVID, it was just such a beautiful place to be. The people were amazing. The atmosphere. I mean, you see the start line, you see the finish line. It always is exciting, but it's like it just goes and goes around the whole thing. There's just people in the middle of the night ringing bells, and like their whole family's out there for the guys that aren't even winning the race. It's pretty special. So it's very different. I love France. I love the people. That valley, Mount Blanc, is just beautiful. It's very unlike what I typically deal with here in Washington, I'd say. So it's special.
I love it. I love the way you describe, because it's a difference, right? It's such a, I mean, the mountains are great over here, right? There is no like judgment, but in some respects there is something that attracts you to it. Now, you did have the possibility of doing TDS instead of UTMB, and you were not interested at all. Like, if you just wanted to be in the area, ostensibly, you could have just done TDS, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for some reason to me, I'm like, oh, if I'm making the trip, I want to do the whole loop. I want to go around all of it and see the whole thing. And I don't know.
I
It's a
wonder if
lot.
I
Go
wonder if
ahead.
I'm gonna feel like that. I wonder if I've run OCC and I'm like, okay, well, that was great, but really that was a third. So let's,
Yeah, no, I get it. But also, you go back to Europe occasionally. For me, it's kind of a lot. I don't have family there. It's me making one big trip. I'm taking my family with me to get over there, but it's a lot to get there.
well, you
So
said you want to run it, you want to race it every year. So I mean, it is going to become an annual thing for you, right?
if I could, if we can make this happen every year, okay, I'm in. I'll sacrifice whatever it takes.
I
But
like it. I like it.
yeah, but practically I won't go every year. I mean, it would be
Yeah.
very hard. But yeah, I just like the idea of doing the full loop. I don't know. It's probably a biased, strange opinion, but that's me.
I mean, no, I think from a story point of view, starting and finishing in the same place is what you want to do, 100%. I mean, if it wouldn't require so many miles and so many nights, then I would 100% always pick that over all the other ones. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I totally get that from a basic storyline. All right, so let's talk about training and preparation. You are self-coached. You don't really like, I don't know. You've not mentioned a stack of books by your bedside table where you are sort of like, well, some people take this like crazy serious, right? I talk to a lot of runners and I love the different perspectives of how somebody gets into. Somebody swears by a coach. That's the person that I've turned into, where I'm sort of become lazy and just like say, "Hey, coach, get me there." Right? I haven't really
Yeah.
even looked at the course profile of OCC
Oh,
that
don't
much.
admit that. Huh, you do rely on your coach. You
I
better
know,
get
I
this
know.
man.
Man, please make it work for me. Carry me.
Oh my gosh.
So, for you, tell me a little bit. Like, you you come there's an interesting piece where you should sort of like part of your training and sort of your approach to training comes from years of surfing where you're comfortably like getting up in the middle of night and just driving through some trailhead and hammering for hours. But there is obviously a little bit of some thinking behind it. You're not just like on a Friday afternoon, but as work winds down for you, say, "Oh, let me do something crazy." Talk to me a little bit about like what's your approach?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I do come from a background in high school. I did a lot of track and cross country, and so I was quite into that where I was trying to progress my body, and I saw how coaches would take me like from summer into the running season and like get ourselves up to where we could run the race and go fast, and these workouts to make me slowly get faster and faster as I saw the months go by. So I have a little bit of like that knowledge, but I have read some books. I don't have stacks of books that I read, but I've read like Ultra Marathon Man and Born to Run and some where they talk about things that kind of get you a little bit inspired, which is typically where I come from, where I'm like motivated with some inspiration of adventure or challenges. Some of those things get me to make some decisions where I run through the night and whatnot. But yeah, so then when I approach training, I'm like, okay, I know I want like 10 to 16 weeks of like good prime training that I'm able to handle it. But I'm typically trying to ride the line of, okay, I'm adding some speed, I'm doing some vert depending on whatever the race is or what my challenge is, and then also trying not to wear myself out to where I might get an injury. So that's my key, I think, is something fun that keeps me excited about training. I know that I'm kind of building some speed, and then I'm kind of getting that endurance. In this scenario, this year I've been kind of not running a lot earlier in the year, and then I started having a couple little injuries with calves and things that just made me not want to run a lot. And then all of a sudden it's been like hammer time where I'm like, okay, I got to train hard, but I got to also be sure that my body's recovering from it and not getting hurt to where I got to take off a week or two and keep building on itself. But then also when I know I'm going to have a challenge like UTMB or I'm going to be out there for 35, 40 hours, I've got to be able to handle the darkness, get myself to an uncomfortable zone. So that's one reason why I'll say, hey, I'm going to go start running at midnight somewhere out in the mountains and run for 10 hours and get to some lows to push that gas tank a little bigger, be a little bit sad out there. But I'm still in a comfort zone to where I can easily take care of myself and recover.
That's almost the way Courtney always describes chiseling on her pain cave, right? Where she sort of like pushes herself into these places in order to see what's possible, right?
That's actually a good point. Yeah, in my mind, when I'm out training, I'm trying to like make that a little bit easier to go so low to know that I can kind of come through it and keep moving forward.
It's definitely an interesting approach and something that challenges me because I try to, like for Kodiak, which I DNF'd, I sort of did my runs in fairly safe environments. I didn't really push myself too hard into that discomfort zone, if you will, right? And maybe I paid the price for that. So it is interesting. And I want to
But you've got to be so careful with that because if you push too far, then you throw off the training for the next 2 weeks or something because you just pushed yourself too far. It's really like paying attention to your body. Like, okay, is that real bad or is that just, it's getting beat up, but it's fine.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because you're using those kind of training runs sort of for the mental side and not just for the physical side, right?
Well, yeah.
But I think that mental
think
side
that's
is
what
so
ultra
important.
is. I think that's the key here. If your mind's strong enough, that's how you get around the whole mountain and get it done.
Yeah, you see, that's why I suck at these long things because I feel like there's a little ouchie and I'm like, take me
Poor little
home.
Matthias.
Yes,
Do it.
exactly. Anyway, talk to me a little bit about your weekday runs because you're super busy. You can't really take off. I mean, if I'm looking at my coach, he gives me some bigger runs during the week, but you're not just doing some of these really big things. You obviously run during the week, but the week looks fairly chill usually for you.
Yeah, it has been pretty chill. I've got a pretty busy life in terms of I've got work that I'm pretty structured in terms of times I've got to be there, and then I get pulled away outside of hours for work. And I've got a family where I've got to also be there for them and be a part with kids. So usually during the week, I'm just trying to balance exhaustion, still being mentally able to do my work and take care of my family and be there, but then keep my running kind of like my fitness level there. Be sure my my tendons and muscles can still stretch and stride out and everything from the long runs on the weekend. And then if I can throw in some vert or something else in there to help, I will. But typically during the week, it is just me trying to like kind of maintain throughout the week and then hit it a little bit harder on the weekends.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I can schedule it to make it work for me. So it's almost like recovery during the whole week. Maybe I'll throw in some strides or some little speed stuff in some of those runs hidden in there, unknown to people. But
I know. Well, that's why I'm asking, because their runs look always fairly simple and casual, and you're certainly not somebody who writes 4x6 or whatever, right? You're not really writing it into Strava, right? And so I was just curious to see if you're hiding it and still sort of focusing on that, because that's one of those big learnings for me with having a coach, that's something where you can go out and it looks like you just did a 4 or 5 mile run, but you actually did a very specific training block, right? You weren't just like, okay, I needed some miles, and on the weekend, that's the only time it counts, right?
Yeah, no, I will throw strides in or some interval work during the week, but it kind of depends on how my body's feeling. If it feels a little bit tight or something, because I've had it times before where I go for something speed when I'm working and building strong, and it just pulls a muscle a little bit too much, and then I pay the price for a week or two. So
Yeah.
I just have to feel it out. But yeah, no, I throw in some strides or intervals in there.
So you had a pretty massive week this week, with yesterday's run being like insane. How are you feeling now, physically and mentally? Because you only have like 3 weeks left, less than 3 weeks, right?
I'm gonna be honest, I feel fantastic today. I went for a little run, and my quads and everything felt perfectly fine from yesterday after 13,000 feet. So I'm like, oh, okay, my body's good for this. So
I
it's
like it.
all like it really is all in my head and nutrition, I think now.
Okay. So now you're sort of in this place where you're like, okay, the body, you did enough. Now you kind of switch to the practical planning, if you will. So, or are you going to hammer a little bit more?
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna still have to run a little bit more, I think, just because of the amount of time I put into it. I think I'm going to. I won't do what I did yet. I won't put in that type of vert again, but I'll still run. I gotta keep kind of that running fitness for another week and a half or so. So I will.
Yeah.
I won't.
So,
I don't know what I'll do next weekend. We'll see. But this next week, I'll just probably keep my body moving and feeling well.
yeah. All right. And then, I mean, you're not leaving to Europe as soon as I do. You still have a couple more weeks, but I mean, you're already planning. I mean, we're already chatting about stuff we need to buy and stuff that I haven't bought yet, or
Yeah, you
I should have prepared and planned for.
Come on.
There is already a lot of planning going on, which is always a big component in these ultras, right? I mean, you're not just training your body; you have to think of so many other components, and well,
Yeah, especially traveling overseas to all this, to where you might not be able to buy all the things you're expecting to get. And then what if there's the hot weather, the cold weather kit? I mean, these races take more mandatory items than any other race well, I'm sure there's more, but all the races I've ever dealt with, this is the most. And it's kind of exciting because you have to have all this cool gear ready to go. And I mean, I'll have a dry bag of Courmayeur, so I'll have to have like backups and things in that bag too. So
you've done this race before, so you kind of know what works and what doesn't, and what you can get away with and stuff. Do you feel like you need to adjust anything from last time, or you're like, last time everything worked, here's how we're gonna do this?
I feel like I need to carry more of the food I like.
You don't want to rely on the cheese flavored melon.
I will never forget that for the rest of my life. No, I don't. Cheese running, I can't do that. Oh man, but I'll probably carry more food. That's part of my issue, I think, from last time. So I just got to be sure I'm eating enough of what I like.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where you've always been fairly casual with, right? In terms
Mhm.
of like, you've not really been super structured in, I need that many calories per hour or carbs or whatever, right? You've
Yeah,
always
I'm
been
not
like,
counting. Yeah. So
which when it comes to something super hard as UTMB, you then end up paying the price.
yes, I do. It'll be fun. Yeah, so I'll have to. I was just bought a couple things that I'll be bringing that are more like oatmeal packs and some other things to carry with me that I know I'll like and have more calories, and hopefully they'll slow me down a little bit in terms of my upfront speed to build more nutrition in there for the first 5 to 10 hours.
Oatmeal packs. That's fascinating.
Well, it has oatmeal in it and some other things.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know. We'll see. And some fruit.
Interesting. You're
I
like,
know. I've tried so many different things. Like the mashed potato burritos are amazing, but they just get so soggy after sitting in your vest for a while. I want to like them, but not when they're soggy.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm excited. I'm excited. I've not experienced the magical aid stations at UTMB. I'm very excited about cheese and salami and whatever.
I bet you are.
I don't
It'd be
know. I don't. You know
beautiful.
the.
You're gonna probably stop at Champagne Lac, have a beer with a little charcuterie plate right there by the lake, and just like, this is it.
What you don't know is I'm not bringing a collapsible plastic bowl. I'm bringing a little wooden cutting board. I'm just.
It's gonna be the best race ever. Oh, you're gonna love it.
Oh man. So you said at the top of the show that you love Chamonix. You're gonna go over there with your family. Of course, the
Mm-hmm.
race is the big focus. Of course, you're focusing on making sure you get yourself around the loop, and there will be lots of time spent on making sure you are prepped, your bib is picked up, and anything else. But talk a little bit about what else you're going to be doing, what you're looking forward to based on your experience last time in in Chamonix.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm probably more sightseeing this with the family. So we're gonna go up to Agua de Midi and maybe the Mer de Glace, maybe the kind of see some more things in that regard. But then also, I don't know, my family just loves walking the neighborhoods and seeing all the houses and how people live there, and it's just so much fun just to walk and see it because it's just a different world for us.
Hmm.
Um, so we're gonna experience it all a little bit more. It's gonna be a lot different than when I was there last time during COVID, where they had all these tests and all these different requirements to go into places.
Yeah, you didn't really want to go and sort of explore, right? Sitting in a gondola with like 30 other people felt always like really cumbersome, right?
Yeah, very different. So it'll be a different experience, I think, this time around. But my family is absolutely ecstatic to go. Like this is this is gonna be good. It's a win.
It's a win. If the family is happy, it's a win. Well, I mean, Asher, your kid has been over there. Does he talk about, it's not like it's been like, so many years that he doesn't remember, right? I mean, does he talk about things that he's like, we got to do this again, or last time we didn't do, this time we have to?
No, he is just pumped to go. He doesn't have some specifics about what he wants to do. We did go to Paris last time afterwards, and he talks about like, oh, so are we gonna go to see the Eiffel Tower? And I'm like, nope, we're not going to Paris. We're going to Chamonix. Remember?
Okay.
um, and last time we had like a house outside of town with my whole family, my parents and everything were there. And it was a little bit different experience in terms of that. This time it's just my wife and Asher there.
Hmm.
And he is excited though to see the town and travel. He likes to travel, which is good. Warms my heart.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
These experiences are, I don't know, they're so valuable. And even though, Chamonix during UTMB week isn't really like, here, this is the most authentic French experience you could ever have, right? I mean, it is sort of becomes an international explosion of activity and madness, right? But at the same time, just getting yourself out from your sort of normal four walls that you're sort of experiencing and just seeing something else is just so valuable, right? I mean, it gives you an appreciation of what you have, but it also just kind of like inspires you, clears your head, and makes you see new things, which, as you're saying, last a lifetime, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, he's 11, and these are things that he'll remember forever and help kind of form what he does in the world going forward. So I love it.
Absolutely incredible. Well, for me, it's pretty much almost go time. This recording basically happens instead of me packing, which is speaks to the priorities that I have in life.
Yeah, you go in a couple days, don't you?
I have packed nothing. I bought a bag. And well, I mean, not nothing. I think I've got like sort of like 3 cables together for all the electronics that I'm gonna be bringing, but this is about the extent of my preparation. So yeah, we are not in a good place over here, but just as ecstatic to get over there. And what is going to be like super crazy and something that we've never envisioned, we're literally gonna see each other in Chamonix. It's going to be kind of weird and surreal and amazing.
Oh, I am looking forward to it. Seeing you there and your impressions of it all. Oh, it's magnificent.
Magnificent. There we go. Well, let's see. Links for people to follow. You're not really active on Instagram, right? Are you going to be posting photos on Instagram of your amazing international travels, or is
Probably mainly on Strava?
Strava, right? Strava is your place. If people want to see some of your crazy runs that you do, especially the timestamps are crucial for these ones, they should follow you on Strava. I will link that in the show notes. Anything else? No, I think that's kind of the place to be. Scott, it was absolutely incredible to finally have you on Singletrack. I sort of knew that it would take something very, very special, and I don't know. I mean, it's the most special thing. It couldn't get any more special, right?
Oh, I agree with you. It's fantastic. It's good.
There we go. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and well, we'll see each other beforehand, but we'll definitely see each other in Chamonix.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Matthias.
Thank you, Scott, for finally coming on Singletrack and getting me into the mood for Chamonix. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us and for all the support throughout the years. More links and info in the show notes at singletrack.fm. This was Singletrack, and I see you in Chamonix and, of course, over at Electric Cable Car for daily trail and mountain news. I'm your host, Matthias Eichler, and really, before I say auf Wiedersehen und Tschüss, please, if you're in Chamonix, reach out to me, let me know that you're there. Would love to connect and meet up, shake hands, drink a beer, have a pizza, have a coffee. You name it, we'll make it happen. See ya.